everybody. I'm really excited. We've got Sally Fallon-Morale here with us from Western Price Foundation. So good morning, Sally. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. No, I'm glad to have seen that. We'll definitely put that on our website.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's important. Josh does important work standing up for our kids. So seed oils versus butter and fats. And this is what we want to talk about now. But someone said to me literally yesterday, what are you talking about? What even is a seed oil? So let's start with that. What is a seed oil?
Yes, most people don't realize that the oils that we cook in, the spreads, the margarines, but they're mostly unseen. They're in the potato chips, they're in the cookies, they're in the pastries, they're in the French fries. Okay, we don't see those, but they are industrial seed oils that are pressed out of seeds. And this was not possible until the 1890s when they developed the stainless steel roller press. What comes out of those seeds looks like smelly, thick, black gunk that you would never consume. It's completely repulsive. But then it goes through a refining process that heats these oils at least 4 times to very high temperatures. And these are polyunsaturated oils, so they're very fragile. And every time they're heated, they start to break down. And that's what we're putting in our bodies. That's what we've been doing more and more since about the 1920s, 1930s. And they take their toll. They're very, very bad for our health.
And so when you're looking at the ingredients, it won't say seed oils on there. What will it say?
It'll say corn oil, canola oil, soybean oil. It might say vegetable oil. And of course, vegetable is a euphemism. Everyone likes vegetables, right? So they call these seed oils vegetable oils. But yeah, they are on the label. And the only way to avoid them really is to avoid processed food because they're in all processed food.
Okay. And so again, another question someone said to me was like, okay, fine, but I've been eating seed oils, as you call them, and bread and all this kind of stuff for ages, and I'm not sick. So what are we saying the actual issue is by ingesting this stuff?
Well, first of all, they're highly carcinogenic. They cause cancer. We know this. And what happens when you eat these oils is they start to break down in the body into very simple molecules called aldehydes. There's one aldehyde that you're familiar with, and it's called formaldehyde, right? And what are the undertakers saying these days? That they don't need as much formaldehyde for the bodies anymore because they're already kind of pickled. And this is coming from the seed oils. So just because you're functioning out there doesn't mean that they haven't affected you. They cause cancer. They're very harmful to growing children. They lower IQ in growing children. They cause fatigue. They cause autoimmune disease. They're just really bad news. And just because you have something that's blamed on whatever doesn't mean it hasn't been largely caused by the seed oils.
All right, so let's talk about the butter and the animal fats, because when I was a little girl, that's what we had. And then I remember I just being sort of a little girl still, but margarine and weird stuff coming in like that, which disgusting, always been disgusting.
It's absolutely disgusting. And if you saw how it was made, you'd never touch it. I was very fortunate. And then my mother, she never used margarine. She said that. She said, this stuff is disgusting. We use butter in our house. But she did use Crisco for this fried chicken because they created the impression that lard was kind of vulgar. And, unless you were white trash, you didn't use lard. So the Crisco did sneak in. But basically cooked in butter and olive oil.
But what happened, Sally, that we went from eating what we now know as a good diet of animal fats, we'll talk more about animal fats in a minute, but what happened to not just America, around the world, that we went from that to suddenly margarine and oils and this disgusting food we have now?
Well, it was a deliberate campaign. We saw it happen. What they did was start to demonize things that are in animal fats that are not in seed oils. And what's in animal fats? Cholesterol and saturated fat. And these are not in the seed oils. So these were demonized, and we became to think that they caused first of all, heart disease, which is just absolutely not true. And cholesterol is, our best friend. We should be eating cholesterol. We need cholesterol. By the way, we make estrogen and testosterone out of cholesterol. Guys, you really want to take a cholesterol lowering drug and lower your testosterone. Babies need cholesterol. They can't make their own cholesterol. The third ingredient in milk replacer for calves is animal fat, because they know these calves will not grow right without animal fat. But there's no animal fat in human baby formula. So the animal fats, the competition was demonized by this anti-cholesterol propaganda.
So what about cholesterol? Because I have members of my family who get it on the vaccine issue, but they're all on cholesterol, whatever drugs that they take.
Yeah. These drugs are terrible. They have horrible side effects, starting with infertility, erectile dysfunction, because you can't make hormones anymore, muscle wasting, nerve degeneration. We need cholesterol for our muscles to work. We need cholesterol for our brains to work. We need cholesterol for, the brain, physical brain is very high in cholesterol. It's supposed to be, because we need that cholesterol. So what we've seen happen in this country is exactly what you would think, by giving up the healthy animal fats and going to the toxic seed oils.
So is it all about selling cholesterol lowering drugs? And also, who made up the bar that says you've got, you're at whatever, I don't know what the stats are, 200 and whatever, and you should be at this? Who made that up?
It was, I'm trying to think of his name. He was head of the National Institutes of Health. He picked that number, 200. Because he said, otherwise we won't have enough people to test. My colleague, Mary Enig, was there and heard him say this. They were saying, well, let's make it 240. That's the average. And he said, oh, no, we have to make it 200. Well, now they just give those drugs to everybody, because no matter what your cholesterol is, it's obviously too high. And if you've had any kind of heart problems, they will give you cholesterol statins, even if your cholesterol is very, very low. And the death rate for people with low cholesterol is much higher than the death rate for people with high cholesterol.
And what about the statins? I mean, I know you're not an expert on that, but I mean, they must be full of horrific stuff.
They should not. That's a drug that should be completely banned. It has no purpose. It does not prevent heart disease. We've seen over time the data on this. They don't prevent heart disease. They cause a lot of illness. There's absolutely no reason to give them, except that the bonus that the doctors get if they're in a practice depends on them writing these prescriptions.
It's disgusting. And also they put the fear into them. People are petrified. You're going to die. You're going to die if you eat any more butter, if you touch that. So how should we live then? So if you were coming into my house and you were going to stock my fridge up or whatever, what would you put in there?
A butter, of course, a full fat raw milk. There'd be some cream in there, plenty of eggs, egg yolks, the meat with the fat on it, all these wonderful foods. We talk about Weston Price. He studied traditional cultures, and one of the food combining rules that you read about in traditional cultures was they never ate lean meat. They thought that lean meat was toxic, and if they killed an animal that was too lean, they threw it away. And they always ate the fattest part of the animal, the fatty organs, and they saved the fat to eat that with the lean meat.
I was telling Sally before we came on air that my chiropractor told me to be careful how much raw milk I was drinking, because it can make you fat, which I know I'm not a slim Jim. I mean, I don't want to be a slim.
You don't, not at, as we grow older, as women grow older, you should gain weight, especially at menopause. You should gain a couple of dress sizes. Because otherwise the tendency is you'll be frail, and you don't want to be frail, and you don't want to have wrinkles either. You want to have a good layer of fat under all of your skin. But I'll tell you about a study. This was never published, but my colleague Mary Enig told me this. The Department of Agriculture did a study to see what foods would make pigs get fat, because that's what they wanted. They wanted fat pigs. And when they fed the pigs whole milk, the pigs would not get fat. They stayed lean. When they fed the pigs skim milk, the pigs got fat really fast. So what we should be doing is we should have a milk production. The human beings should drink the whole milk. We should make butter and make cream, and then we have this skim milk left over as a waste product that should go to the pigs to make the pigs fat. Then we have all this wonderful fat in the pig. There are components in animal fats that we can't get anywhere else. One of them is called arachidonic acid. It's in butter, it's in lard, it's in tallow. And arachidonic acid is the fat that we make endocannabinoids out of, our own natural marijuana feel-good chemical. And we have receptors for these endocannabinoids in the brain, of course, but all over the body. They're very important for the immune system, but there are feel-good chemicals. And we cannot make endocannabinoids unless we're eating animal fats. It's just, that's the fact. So,
it's so good
why are we such an addicted culture? Because we don't feel well. We're not making the natural marijuana that our bodies are supposed to make.
It's so good to have you on, Sally, to put these facts right, because it's constant and a lot in our movement as well.
Yeah. Another thing that you get exclusively from butter, you can't get it anywhere else. You can't get it from coconut oil. You can only get it from butter, and that's something called butyric acid, which is essential. It's very important for digestion, but it's essential for thyroid function. And butter is the absolute most important food for your thyroid gland. And here we're seeing 1 person in 2 in this country has some kind of thyroid problem. I gave a lecture once and talked about butter, and a guy came up afterwards and he said my mother grew up in the goiter belt. That's where there was a lot of thyroid problems, in a village in Romania. And she was the only person in the village who didn't eat butter. Everyone else ate lots of butter, but she hated butter. And she was the only person in that village who had a goiter, who had this severe thyroid problem. And she didn't eat butter. I'll never forget that comment. So butter is highly protective of the thyroid gland. And of course, the thyroid gland is what boosts your metabolism, gives you energy, and keeps you from gaining too much weight.
It's so opposite to what everybody is telling us.
Everybody says, yeah. Well, butter is one of the problems is that the industry, they don't want to sell butter. They don't make any money on butter. They don't want to sell whole milk. Why should we give whole milk to growing children? We don't make any money on the butter fat when we do that. What they want to do is take the butter fat out and put it in ice cream. And they make at least 5 times more on that butter fat if they put it in ice cream. So the decisions on how we feed our families, our growing children, the ones who need that fat the most, they're being made by accountants. They're not being made by loving parents. They're not being made by nutritionists. They're being made by accountants.
So, Sally, do you recommend that people just don't go to a supermarket and buy probably 90% of the foods in there?
That's right. Cook yourself. I tell you, put butter on everything. I think we should have a tablespoon of butter with each meal. That's 3 tablespoons a day. I tell you, you won't be craving the ice cream, and you won't be having to get this butter fat that you need from ice cream full of sugar if you're eating butter every day. Put it on your vegetables, put on your potatoes, put on your meat, drink whole milk. I guarantee you'll feel better. You'll feel happier. You need those fats to feel happy.
And once again, for the women who did not quite hear what you said earlier, which is the best news ever, we are supposed to have a layer of fat on us.
Yes, that fat is a stem cell factory. We've learned a lot about fat in the last 20 years, and fat produces stem cells. And this is what repairs things and keeps your body in good form, because the stem cells are constantly going to places that need repair and repairing things and turning into heart cells or eye cells or whatever. And that fat, it keeps you from being frail. You know, you,
It's
you should
not
you should gain 2 dress sizes when you go through menopause, and they do. Every woman does if they're not torturing themselves with some kind of low fat diet, and this happens in traditional cultures as well. The women they get strong. They have other duties now that they've stopped having children.
Yeah, like looking after your grandchildren.
Like looking after Dr. Price has this wonderful photograph of a woman, a grandmother. She has 3 daughters and several grandchildren, and they all live together as a family. And she goes out fishing every day, and this to support her family. And this is one strong woman. She has big muscles. She couldn't do that if she were on a diet and trying to stay thin.
No, we can't be all thin and scrawny, everybody. So butter, get your good butter in. There's a lot of bad butter out there.
Well, try to get a grass-fed butter. And that's a good thing that's happened. We can get Kerrygold, we can get New Zealand butter, you can get Kirkland butter. It's out there. I'm looking forward to the day when we can all get raw grass-fed butter, which you can in California and a few other states. But there's more work to be done for sure. But the grass-fed butter, that's kind of taken off, and it really is available.
Now, Sally, tell us about your website and what people can expect to find on there. And also you have a conference coming up this year.
Oh, thank you, Polly. So the Weston A. Price Foundation, it's westonaprice.org. It's just a huge website. Anything we've ever published is on that website. And we do have a tour for newcomers. Hope you'll become a member and receive our magazine, our quarterly magazine, and all of our information. Then we have 2 other websites. One is realmilk.com that helps you find raw milk all over the United States. We get 100,000 new visitors a month on that website. And then the other one is wisetraditions.org, and that's for our yearly conference. And we put on a wonderful conference with great food. The conference includes 5 meals, great speakers, great camaraderie. And that is wisetraditions.org. And our conference this year is in Salt Lake City from October 17th through 19th.
It's amazing, all the work you do. I'm glad you brought up where you can find your raw milk as well.
Yeah.
When's it going to be that we have states where this raw milk is accepted as something?
Well, we've made huge progress on raw milk. When we started, raw milk, farmers could supply raw milk by selling, by pet milk, or by herd shares in 27 states. And now we're up to 47 states. So it's and one of them is Nevada, which is sparsely populated, and one of them is Rhode Island, which is very small. The third one is Hawaii, and we're really working on Hawaii this year. But it's so much more available than it used to be.
Okay, and one last question for you. It's a bit of a random question, but one that was asked to me recently. So a mother looking to, with her child that's 1 or just over 1 year old, looking to wean off breastfeeding, is raw milk a good next step?
Oh, absolutely. That's you wean onto raw milk. After all, what's breast milk? It's raw milk, okay? And that'll be a beautiful, healthy, strong child. The raw milk helps prevent allergies, asthma, infections, ear troubles. It's a highly protective food.
Well, and also I think very, very few people actually can't breastfeed, but you do have a formula, don't you?
Yes, we have a formula made from raw milk. It's one of the most visited pages on our website. Just put in raw milk formula and you'll find it. And with the recipe and all of the testimonials and so forth, questions and answers. And that, I reckon that formula has brought up and saved about 20,000 babies. They just thrive on this formula. This sounds like heresy, but sometimes they do better than on breast milk. If the mother is not very healthy and not producing really nutritious breast milk, this formula can save the day.
Yeah, I can imagine, especially with the mothers that took the COVID shot and trying to breastfeed with all that spike protein.
Yeah, they come out in the breast milk. So, yeah.
Well, to our viewers, Sally has agreed to come on with Bella on Mothers to Be. So you will see them on a future. And they will talk a lot more about nutrition and pregnancy and all of these kinds of things. We'll go more in depth of that at a future episode coming up. But Sally Fallon Morale, thank you for everything you and all of your organization do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, we hope to see you at the conference, Polly.
Love to be at the conference. Yes. So, and everybody watching as well, thank you as well for being here and listening. I know you all love Sally very much. So Sally, thank you for everything that you've done again, for being on this morning.